I was eating my apple, George. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I'm in Gilmer County. It's like the law. It's part of the law. You got to have an apple in Gilmer County.
Good morning from the office. This is George McClellan speaking for BKP, whose mouth is full of apple.
And we're in Gilmer County.
Well, it's all right. It makes somebody's got to tell them out there what's happening and why.
Somebody has to.
Somebody has.
Somebody has to do it. You know what, George? I've named September of the official pay attention month. We need to pay attention. Something about September is boiling. Congress is back to work. Oh God, they're back. I don't know if you can call it work. By the end of September, Obama's wanting to relinquish control of the internet to the UN. We have
Who gives him the authority to do that?
I don't know. I've called my congressman. I want to know. I have. I've called my congressman. Said I want to know. I called my senator. I want to know. But they've relinquished. Want to relinquish control of the internet.
That's heading for the one world government.
Well, we want to head. To. Let's see. The Department of Homeland Security wants to take over elections.
Oh yeah. Totalitarianism right on our doorstep.
Iran, you can't give Iran enough money to leave us alone. You give them $1.7 billion and their pesky little mosquito boats keep trying to agitate us and see what they can do. You follow what I'm saying?
I do.
I mean, September to me is pay attention month. It's just something I'm nervous about September.
What one of those commanders out there has to do is chew up one of those little dinky boats with a Sea Whiz, and the Iranians will stop.
Trump is up 19 points with the military.
Well, he's got to do that with. There's another new one out there. They're actually looking at black millennials, and they're not at all happy. Black millennials with Hillary. She's going to lose that group.
The Daily Caller this morning: Republicans on Capitol Hill gain confidence in Trump. South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham said he is pleased. We've been waiting for Lindsey Graham to decide he was pleased, right? Lindsey Graham said he was pleased Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump is holding up against Democrat presidential nominee Hillary Clinton. Trump is getting better, Graham told reporters Tuesday, pointing to a recent polling. Graham's another guy that smashed his phone. Remember when Trump gave out his number, Graham had to smash his phone?
That's right.
Yeah. Hillary, you can use that. I give that to you for free, Hillary campaign. Hey, they blame Colin Powell. They said, well, Colin Powell had a private server, right? I'm not a private server. He had a private email address, right? Not a private server, email. So they said Colin Powell did it first. Well, she could say Lindsey Graham smashed his phone.
Yeah, she could. Yeah, she won't.
Anyhow.
She won't. She's too, she broke out of the cocoon of August silence on that airplane before her coughing jig. And her whole speech was one of self-pity. And if her campaign is to simply attack Donald Trump personally, which she's doing, she's not making a headway with that, because out here we don't care. Donald Trump is, for most of us out here, the erect middle finger right in the face of politicians.
George, let me tell you, I have Secretary of State Brian Kemp will be my guest at 9:30. So in just a couple minutes, folks, we're going to have George is going to actually do his final thoughts of the day. And he's going to stick around after my interview with Brian Kemp. We have a couple minutes left. He may be able to come back in. So we're going to make sure we don't miss George's final thoughts that you can always find on FetcherNews.com in the opinion section. And if you have an opinion you'd like to write, send it to us, Chief, at FetcherNews.com, and we'll get it on. Now, let me say this, George. All the things going on. Who is this guy on the plane? Now, I have read this. This guy is on the plane. You remember this guy showed up at the campaign event, came up behind her, and what do they call this? It's seen in his hand. This came out. I played this video.
It's an auto thing, and he sticks it in a big muscle, probably her butt, and it stops her
Diazepam pen?
diazepam, yeah,
Yeah.
like that. I thought that was a
Diazepam pen. Mike, it's
oil.
early. It's pointed out. Now, I played this on this show about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I played this and I said, who is this guy? We were kindly out in front of this, and guess what? He's back on. Guess where he's seen? He's seen on the plane. This mystery guy. We don't know who this guy is.
The
He's
black
not-
guy is gone.
Huh?
The black guy that was in that film, he's disappeared.
No,
So,
he's back on the
Is
plane.
it the same black guy?
Yeah, he resurfaced.
Well, I saw a white guy with a pen in his
No,
hand
no.
in
He
the picture.
resurfaced. On
Okay.
Monday, Hillary Clinton suffered another severe coughing spat on the plane, and later during the speech, guess who popped up on the plane? He's back. Right there he is. He popped up on the plane.
Okay, I believe you.
Yeah, I just
I was expecting to see him floating in the river.
no, he's on the plane, and Joe Biden is campaigning hard for Hillary, and Chavis wants to go back with more hearings. September, George, September. Pay attention,
Well,
Mike.
that's the October surprise too. I think the WikiLeaks thing might. Well, we'll see. We'll see. They're trying desperately to kill that Julian Assange. There's been 2 attempts now to get to him in that Colombian embassy.
Assange says, George, Assange says that he has emails where Hillary actually used the C in parentheses to signify to whoever she was sending the email to it was confidential. So we have actual proof that she understood what the C word meant. I like what Chavis, because I did this yesterday on the show. Chavis is talking about this. You know, Trump came out yesterday. They must watch my show, because Trump came out yesterday and talked about acid washing this server. This bleach bit, they intentionally clean the server. And every time that woman says, "Oh, you mean wiped it clean with a cloth?" Oh, every time she says that, it just like,
Well, that shows her duplicity. People see that. We're not simple out here.
What are some of the top things in our short time this morning before Secretary of State Brian Kemp joins me? What are some of the top things you've been looking at there on the internet, or some of the things you were reading on yesterday?
Well, we still have the problem of the Black Lives Matter. They are an organized terrorist group, and they're out there. We see changes coming. For one, in fact, I might as well just go into my little thing now, shouldn't I? And talk
Well,
about it?
let's do that, and then
Are
we'll
we
have
ready?
a little time. Yes, we're going to go ahead now. George is going to share his final thoughts of the day, and then we'll close out this half hour before Secretary of State Brian Kemp joins us at 9:30. So let's go ahead and have George's final thoughts of the day.
We are reactive to certain stimulus, particularly words, when they're thrown at us like spears by the left. And the big word is racism. You are racist if you think this, say this, do this, or even pretend like you might think that. The term racist is often wielded by the ultra left-wing Democrat Party as a bludgeon against anyone who points out the obvious failures of the progressive schemes directed toward keeping America's blacks enslaved to government dependency. And it's losing its sting. It's overused, it's applied against the wrong race, and is now becoming a laughable cliche often used in jokes. By the Democrat definition, blacks cannot be racist, only victims. And when they realize that, they'll start thinking differently. It's only white people who should be guilt-ridden because they enjoy a special privilege. It's only white people that can be racists. Whites, of course, and Asians too, who possess the skills and drive needed to succeed or are willing to learn those skills, are truly the real racists according to leftist dogma. America is an ethnic mix of many races and cultures that came here to become Americans, or rather, once upon a time they did come here to be Americans. Over time, various ethnic groups, the Chinese come to mind, who arrived on these shores to seek prosperity denied them in their home countries through manual labor on the railroads and self-enterprise, adapted. Cultures frequently clash at first contact, and so rules were loosely made to limit any major damage between contending forces. For a generation, the races separated by choice. Then the rules became irrational, discriminated against the successful races in favor of the lesser ones. Affirmative action being the worst idea of all, with minimum wages added on as a close second. Those are anchors to self-improvement. For example, Hispanics, it is said, supposedly hate blacks, and the reverse. But not always. Hispanics have a glorious culture of family, religion, hard work, and togetherness. Hispanics don't want their culture diluted by another culture that does not share their social values. They hate it even more when those cultures are imposed on them under threat of being called racists or haters. Is that for you?
Yeah.
That probably is. Nobody knows I'm here. When whites have been beaten down by racist taunts, there is almost no pushback to the stupidity that is causing it. Asians came here and have assumed the role of the most educated and successful oriented of all the races. Asians have remained aloof from the racial pother because culturally they are different. They succeed and nobody challenges them. Because of the failures, the Democrat schemes over the past 50 years, allegedly to lift the black race up to an equal level of social and economic prosperity and create racial harmony, Americans arrived at the point where they rationally discriminate based on their experiences and do so without fear of being labeled racist. The black race remains exactly where it has always been, on the bottom, in urban slums, separate but not forgotten. Black lives don't really matter. They just say that. It's not racism, it's a failure to achieve. Businesses will not hire anyone who looks and sounds and speaks like a gangbanger unless they are forced to. Generations are being lost because the government enslaves them with the cloak of victimhood by providing cash payments, EBT cards, and subsidized housing. Uneducated properly, they cannot possibly earn a living or support a family. That was intended. They call it racism. I call it failed socialist economics. The solution is to end the experiment in socialism. It doesn't work. Get government out of their lives and get out of the way of free enterprise. Secure the borders, enforce our immigration laws, and create a fair tax. And millions of jobs will return to American shores. If the Clinton criminal enterprise returns to the White House, nothing good will come of it, and all of our schemes will get far worse if that is possible. And remember, freedom is the goal. The Constitution is the way. Thank you.
Thank you, George. You can always find George's opinion piece, his final thoughts on FetcherNews.com in the opinion section. If you would like to, if you hit the news section, you go up in the news section, and when it drops down, put your cursor over the news, it drops down, there's an opinion section. If you'd like to write a letter to the editor about your local community, whether it be your city, your county, or state or national, and get that in our opinion section, send that to FetcherNews.com. Send that to me, Chief, at FetcherNews.com. Sidetracked on something. Don't know what it was. George, National Security, Secretary of State, obstruction of justice. You remember the good old days when the media was not part of the cover-up? They were the ones that investigated.
That would have ended it right there.
They investigated. Yeah. Remember the old days when they investigated the actual crime, and now they're part of the cover-up? Mm-hmm. Here is something somebody says to me, and a question that keeps coming up. Freedom of speech, the First Amendment, freedom of the press. Is freedom of the press, this is dangerous ground, but this is a conversation that we are going to have in the future. Freedom of propaganda, freedom of the press. Are we going to have to do something about the liability of what some of the media is doing? And how do you do that?
Well, that's the question. How do you do that? You elect Trump.
Yes, you elect Trump, but Trump, our system is set up for 4 to 8 years, 4 for the first term, 4 for the second. So in 8 years, do you rely on where we're at now with media? I mean, I, for one, support all the amendments. I support the Constitution, but I have a major concern with freedom of the press and what we have done with it.
Well, it's not what we have done with it. It is what the progressive had done with it. They've taken over the journalism schools years ago, like all of our higher education universities, and now they're teaching the progressive dogma. If Hillary becomes president and she starts putting like-minded people on the Supreme Court, then the First Amendment will be what they say it is. They will define it. And what we take for granted now, our ability to say anything we want except fire in a theater, that sort of thing, will be criminalized.
Okay, why do we say freedom of the press, freedom of speech, but you can't yell fire in a crowded theater? Why can you not yell fire in a crowded theater?
Well, because you panic people and people get run over, and if there's not a fire, and you yell fire, that's a criminal act. That falls
Stop.
under. Yes.
You answered it.
Criminal act.
We panic people.
Yep. Into doing things.
Right? Mm-hmm. We panic people, and people get trampled. Mm-hmm. And if there's not a fire at the end of that, that's a criminal act.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. We always panic people. We panic people.
Oh, Zika virus is a good
We
example.
panic people with the next
People
thing. We
love
panic people with this is going to happen. We panic people. People run and we don't want to see them trampled, so we are always welcoming the government's help to solve it.
Yes.
I understand. I have somebody out there saying, wow, you just reached way out there with fire in a crowded theater. Look, we panic people all the time in this country.
Sure.
And then we love when the government rushes to take care of it.
Well, that's the climate change thing. Al Gore spent 10, 15 years trying to panic people. And every time he had got on his soapbox to panic people about global warming, it snowed, like in Denmark that time. And I mean, people see that. We're not simple. We're not simpletons out here. We see and understand. They're talking about humans being the cause of global warming. What global warming? I thought that was the weather. Besides that volcano in Iceland a couple of years ago and the one puffing now, plus 136 other ones in the world, put out more crap into the air in one day than all of humankind have done with campfires in the whole history of our existence.
George, I am just a firm believer and a defender in the Constitution and all the amendments, the Second Amendment. No, I just am getting a little bit where the media, what they are doing right now, and the level of corruption with Hillary Clinton is she's far from alone. There's enablers all through this corruption. I mean,
including the Republican Party, mind you. That's why we're angry at the Republicans. They tell us
valid point, George.
They tell us they elect me and I'll fight this and fight that. We'll fight for the Constitution, and then they get there and they don't. And that's why the Republican Party today is in shambles. It's absolutely in shambles, and it's only being held together on the promise of a Trump presidency. Because if he gets screwed out of this election, and it looks like it, the Republican Party's done. It's done. There will be a new party out there, and it will be a brutal takeover. It will be a brutal takeover.
Trump is up on Hillary nationally right now in a couple polls. They're trying to break the polls down now to look at the sample. The media was not trying to look at the sample when Trump was down in the polls, but now they're working on trying to figure out the sample and how that stacks up. Paperless elections could fuel rigged election claims, We're looking at that. They're trying to create a crisis right now to solve for us, so we will feel better
If the government helps us out.
if the government helps us out.
That's not going to happen.
Trump is up 20 points with independents, 20 with military, veterans, so on and so forth. The list goes on. Tonight, they're supposed to have a national security forum. Hillary comes out on stage and they ask questions with an audience, and then she goes away, and then Trump comes out. It's not a debate, but they're going to ask questions tonight on stage. But the best thing that the liberal left can do to come
I
out.
told you there wouldn't be a debate, didn't I?
Oh, well, the debate's
I
coming
mentioned
up.
that. No, this is the beginning. They're setting a whole new parameter for presenting their sides. Now, that's
Well, I know I'm going to have to disagree. I do think there will still be debates. I do think that. We haven't got there yet. I will say we haven't got there yet. And she's coughing, and how's she going to get through 90 minutes? Do you know how it's going to look nationally
if she starts coughing.
if she starts coughing for 4 minutes?
And that guy runs up there with his syringe.
No. How about this? This is not a joke. They think this is, we're making too much of this. You go out on the debate stage and you're in two podiums, right? And you ask Hillary Clinton a question and she has a minute and a half to answer. And she starts talking. I'm coughing. And this is not, we see it happening. She starts coughing. Do they give her another minute and a half when she runs out of time? Or do they say, Miss Clinton, you just hacked up your minute and a half and you missed your... What is going to happen if the nation sees that on the highest rated debates? I'm just telling you, because somebody said yesterday, I don't know who it was, said if Donald Trump goes at this debate and just reads the phone book, he will win. That just shows up, just stays calm, and stands there, he's going to win. That's what somebody said yesterday, just the appearance. What if she goes on this debate stage and starts coughing?
Oh, well, then he better have somebody out in the audience with flash
I think they ought to have somebody behind the stage tonight to see who medicates her before she goes out tonight.
and film it.
Yes. Trump's dirty dealing deepens. That's what they know. That's what the Huffington Post knows. That is what MSNBC led with at 6 a.m. this morning. That is what messed Brzezinski's day up, is to say Trump's dirty dealing deepens with the Attorney General, Pam Bodie, at the Mar-a-Lago. He had a fundraiser after she dropped investigation. So they're trying to say that Trump made a donation to Pam Bodie, her campaign Attorney General of Florida, and she dropped joining an investigation into Trump University. This is what they have, folks. You bust up phone devices that belong to you, the American people, your equipment, your information. You lose computers, you wipe servers clean, you are subpoenaed. You're under a subpoena to preserve documents. You get rid of them. You say, I don't care who the FBI is. You lie, cheat, and steal to the government, you the people. But it's as important to go back. What do they have to go back to? Trump University.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's what they're going back to this morning.
That's old news.
Pam Bodie and Trump University, that she got $25,000 from Trump's foundation. See, Clinton Foundation is so dirty and corrupt, we got to find out what Trump's foundation did. And they gave $25,000, and supposedly that's against the law. And then he held a fundraiser for the Attorney General at his Mar-a-Lago estate there, club. And then all of a sudden the investigation in Florida into Trump University went away. That's what they have. Well, that's what they have. Just telling you. George, September is Pay Attention Month. And I'm
Well, pay attention to this. The French police found a car next to Notre Dame, flashing lights, no license plate, filled with cylinders, like a homemade bomb. What's in the cylinders? A neurotoxin. No, I'm just saying. That's on the news. It's September. Pay attention. There's a lot going on out there. that they're trying to prevent us from learning and knowing about.
2
Not going to
minutes.
get it on MSNBC or ABC or CBS.
2 minutes before we go to break,
Okay.
and if we don't get back in this morning, I want to make sure I ask you this. Gretchen Carlson's out at Fox. There's a major shakeup over there. I wonder what's happening at Fox.
She got $14 million.
No, not. Oh, Gretchen Carlson got 20 million. Greta Van Sustren's out. Greta Van Sustren's out.
Yeah.
All right, and Gretchen got 20 million. Got $20 million, and Greta Van Sustren's out. I think Fox is falling apart. I'm a little nervous about that 7 o'clock slot going to Brett Hume.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. The only explanation I saw was a contract that allowed Gretchen to leave if Roger Ailes
Key
leaves.
man clause, meaning if you're under contract and the key man of the company leaves, you have a window to leave to.
That's exactly right. And obviously she exercised it. She was making big bucks. She had a good
But she had
following.
that key man, like I said, Gretchen, Greta Van Susteren, they have a clause in their contract. If the key man, being Roger Ailes, leaves, okay, then they have a window of opportunity that they can break their contract without any repercussions to it.
Yep.
And they say that's what she did.
Yep.
Wonder where she'll turn up.
Well,
They
she
say-
said something about a law school or in a law firm. or
Well, she
something,
could
but-
immediately. I'm your
could-
host,
she could ask for
BKP.
anything
Good
she
morning
wants.
from the office, North Georgia's only live online morning show. We're going to take a brief break. When we come back, I'm going to have on the phone with me Secretary of State Brian Kemp, and we're going to talk a little bit about these elections and rigged elections that actually is coming out again. Another article this morning from Politico. Paperless voting could fuel rigged election claims. Paperless voting. So we'll ask Secretary of State of Georgia Brian Kemp these questions when we return. I'm your host, BKP. Take us a break, Cole.